The hooker Lawry Cavanagh. For Atherton at fullback is Ian Larkin. The two wingers, Jack Duncan and Stephen Perricini. The centres, Jeff Bignell and Warren Larkin. 5'8" is Dale Healy. Halfback Terry Payne. Lock forward for Atherton, Jeff Moss. The second row is Gary Gillespie and Charlie Martin. The front row is Peter Smart and John Blyton, with the hooker for Atherton, Mark Broadley. Well, it was Dale Healy kicking off to commence play for Atherton. Drove the ball down to the quarter line in centre field to Brothers, where Brothers now rocking it out on the second tackle of the 1981 grand final, and it'll be Miles Plumb to get up and play the ball. Back to Lawry Cavanagh. It goes across then to Penny. Penny, a short one onto Smith, and Smith goes straight into the arms of the waiting Atherton defence. He'll be put to ground 15 metres inside Brothers territory. Plays it back, it goes to Agius, and then bursting onto the ball is Mick Nayda, up to 10 metres inside his own territory before he's finally picked up and put backwards. The tackler there, Gary Gillespie, plays it back to Cavanagh. It goes on to Agius, then to Plumb. Plumb up centre field, and he's wrapped up right on the 10-metre mark inside his own territory. At dummy half is Cavanagh. Gets it on to Agius. Agius to Stephen Penny. Little Stephen Penny fires off down the number 2 side, field side touchline before he gets his pass on to Peter Duck, who's wrapped up 1 metre inside Atherton territory for the first 6 tackles of the match. The first scrum about to go down, and it'll be Atherton's ball into the scrum. Terry Payne putting the ball in, and as would be quite predicted, referee Alan Dalfavero, the man in charge of the middle today, having quite a talk to both backs of forwards. Now they settle down, and in they go. Payne to put the ball into the scrum for Atherton. The first scrum of the 1981 Rugby League Grand Final. It'll come out Atherton's way. Payne's got to chase it around. It's locked into the scrum. The scrum will end up collapsing on it. What's referee Favero done? He's penalised Brothers for screwing the scrum off the mark. So the first penalty of the match will go to Atherton. They've won the first scrum and won the first penalty. Taking the first kick to the touchline, kicking for the number 2 field side of the ground. If I call it the stable field, the stable side of the field, please forgive me. But taking the tap is Steve Perricini. Runs into a couple of headhunters, but up over the quarter line in centre field before he's finally brought to ground. Loses the ball in the tackle. It's picked up by Broadley. He gets the ball then onto Blyton. Blyton onto Peter Smart. Smart goes in for some nice little treatment from Ian Horsfall in company there with Nayda as he's put to ground on the quarter line. Once again back in centre field. It comes across then to Payne. It's turned back inside from Healy to Warren Larkin, and Larkin's wrapped up and brought to ground, ball and all, making 2 metres in that run. Plays it back to Broadley. It goes then on to John Blyton, who holds the ball low, and he goes straight into the Brothers' defence, not looking for any nonsense, and he goes straight to ground. Only made 1 metre in the ruck. They're only 20 metres now from their own line as Jeff Moss takes the ball up centre field, but he's immediately got Cavanagh and Penny there to put him to ground. Payne across into Healy. Healy, a sharp, fiery pass to Larkin, who cops one on the chest, says the referee, and he goes to ground. He's asking the referee for it. Or is the referee penalising? Yes, the referee is penalising the Brothers player. It's Mick Nayda being signalled out, and he's penalising Nayda for actually tripping. It was that the penalty actually went for. So first chance of points on the board to Atherton after only 2 minutes of the game. Dale Healy attempting to put the points onto the board. And, well, we have with us now Mick Lill. Good afternoon, Mick Lill, and how would you see the game this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Alf. Well, it's great conditions for rugby league, a little bit windy, but beautifully cool for the players, and a grand crowd here today too. It's a great thing to see. I think this is the second year of the group competition, including the tableland teams and the Cairns competition, and it's great to see Atherton in the grand final, and I'm sure you, as well as everybody else, wish Atherton the best of luck.
Well, it's good to see them in there, Mick, and as you said, it would be really great to see them come out on top. Mixed feelings throughout the week. Brothers were the big favourites early on in the week, but all the scribes seem to have gone for Atherton. And, well, the first kick of the day by Dale Healy has been waved away. Big wind blowing across the field here once again today, Mick. We've noticed this right through the semi-finals, and that ball carrying, wind I should say, carrying that kick from Dale Healy just to the right-hand side of the uprights. So we're taking the quick drop kick for Brothers to recommence play. It goes right down to Atherton's quarter line before it's picked up by Duncan. He's immediately picked up by Duck and driven into the ground. He'll play the ball back to Ian Larkin, getting up to dummy half, gives it then on to Moss. Moss running across field, not making any ground, but making himself look good so in doing so. He's brought the ground in centre field, back to Broadleaf, goes to Healy. Healy going for a grubber kick, got impeded as he done so, and the kick merely goes down to the hands of the ever-present Chris Taylor, and Taylor's up over the halfway mark before he's finally brought to ground by Duncan in company with Healy. He'll get up and play the ball back to Peter Duck. The big rangy winger decides to run himself up centre field, but Healy picks him up by one leg, and Mark Broadley in company with John Blyton there to bundle him into touch. He'll play it back to Cavanagh. It goes quickly across to Agius, onto Plumb. It is Miles Plumb charging onto the ball up over the halfway mark, 5 metres into Atherton territory in centre field before Gillespie in company with Martin put him to ground. Cavanagh at dummy half whips the ball across to Stephen Penny, but failing to play the ball correctly, says the referee, pushing the ball through between the legs instead of playing it back with the foot. So another penalty kick to Atherton. Well, Atherton so far, 3 penalties been issued, and all gone to Atherton so far in this particular game. Healy kicking for the grandstand touchline, will find it almost on the quarter line, 20 metres inside Atherton territory. That's where the second tap will be taken. Jack Duncan, the replacement winger today, replacing Mike Douglas, who's sitting on the sideline, has his foot heavily strapped. Never took the field last week. As from the tap it goes to Blyton, then smartly to Peter Smart running close, and Smart goes close to the ruck to charge through. Lawry Cavanagh bowling Charlie Martin over in back play. As from the play, the ball goes across to Blyton, trying to go straight up centre field, but there's no room to go there whatsoever, as 3 Brothers players, including Plumb and Horsfall, put him together along with Mick Shervey. He'll play the ball back. It goes across to Healy. Healy gets it out to Larkin. Larkin immediately onto his brother, who's immediately wrapped up and put to ground on the quarter line, almost in centre field. Running from dummy half is Jeff Donnell, but he's wrapped up there smartly by Steve Penny in company with Dale Graham. Plays it to Broadley, the half-back, the dummy half I should say, and he runs close to the ruck and makes 3 or 4 metres before he's put to ground. Gillespie, it goes then on to Peter Smart. Smart charging up centre field, only 10 metres short of the line before he's finally brought to ground, and that's the 6th tackle, is it? Must be the 6th tackle. Atherton looking enterprising at that particular moment. Peter Smart running very close to Gary Gillespie. The referee blowing play up to talk to, who is it? He's calling out and speaking to Lawry Cavanagh. Undoubtedly, Mick, he'll be speaking to Lawry Cavanagh about bowling over Charlie Martin in that back play after that kick was taken there before.
Yes, Al. Peter Smart, the front rower for Atherton, is certainly running very strong, very close to the ruck and very straight, and he's posing somewhat of a problem for the Brothers' defence at the moment.
It's taking a couple of Brothers players to bring him to ground, and there's Brothers' first penalty for the day. Atherton hooker Mark Broadley having his foot over the tunnel, and therefore a penalty going to Brothers by way of Brothers, and Mick Volp immediately up to take the kick. Indicates to the referee he'll be kicking for the touchline. Does so. It's doesn't go out. It's taken by Larkin right on the halfway mark on the touchline, and he brings it up almost to the quarter line before he's brought to ground. Plays it back to Broadley. Broadley up over the quarter line before he's brought to ground by Nayda in company there with Smith. He plays it back to Gillespie. Gillespie then on to Charlie Martin. Martin goes straight through, and a penalty to Brothers. Atherton players this time all up. So he's penalising Charlie Martin offside. Oops. Well, yes, and taking the tap quickly is Adrian Smith, and Smith bowling up through the Atherton forwards to get almost to, he's about 5 metres short of the halfway mark before he's finally brought to ground. Plays it back to Cavanagh. It goes in onto Mick Agius. Agius charging straight into the Atherton forwards, and it takes Blyton, Broadley and Jeff Moss to bring him to ground 2 metres inside Atherton territory on the far side of the field. Oh, Stephen Penny, a bad dummy, held the ball up there to give to Nayda, and Nayda balked at it. Stephen Penny also dummied, as I said, and finally the ball put to ground right on the halfway mark, right in centre field, and that's where the scrum will pack down for the knock-on. Agius ball into the scrum. In it goes, it comes out Atherton's way, is it? Oh, geez, Payne got around there quickly to get onto that ball. Plays it back to Moss. It goes then onto Larkin, who's immediately taken... no, he's... What's he...
Head-high tackle.
He has penalised him. He's... not too descriptive with his arm wavings very rapidly, is he, referee Del Favero? Some referees, you can understand what they're talking about as soon as they put the whistle in their mouth, but referee Del Favero does make you stop and wonder. The second tap taken by Perricini, puts his head down and charges straight into the Brothers forwards on the quarter line. before he's brought to ground. It was Smith, who's a Plumb, I should say, who brought him to ground. It goes across from Blyton, then across to Moss, and Moss straight into the arms of, once again, Plumb, in company with Nayda. At dummy half is Broadley. Gives it to Blyton. Blyton looking for support. Support not getting there quick enough. Martin knocks the ball to ground, or was the Brothers player, I should say, knocked the ball to ground, and it's been picked up by Gillespie. Gillespie to Broadley. Broadley to Blyton. Blyton only got 2 men to beat, but he can't get through there, and he's brought to ground 2 metres short of the line. Atherton on the attack, 8 minutes of play, and the referee is signifying that John Blyton knocking the ball on as he was getting up to play it. So that'll be another scrum. Massive amounts of scrums for only 8 minutes of play. Agius to put the ball in for Brothers, and it goes. Not quite gets into the scrum. Out the same opening, says the referee. Referee Alan Delfavero speaking to both halfbacks. In it goes. It doesn't quite go in again, but comes out Atherton's way. Leave it go, says the referee, as it goes to Healy. And Healy's pounced on 10 metres short of the line. Plays it back to Payne. Payne, the little fellow, deciding to go from dummy half. There's nowhere there for a little fellow. And he's brought to ground immediately by Agius. Plays it back to Healy, who takes 2 steps. Gets it on to Charlie Martin. Martin immediately wrapped up by the defence there of Shervey in company with Plumb. He'll play it back to Broadley. Broadley to Blyton. Blyton a short one to Moss, and Moss has gone over. Moss gone over 2 metres to the right-hand side of the upright. No, he's just short of the line. I thought he was there. He plays it back to Blyton. Blyton immediately set upon. The pass to Smart is put to ground, picked up by Brothers, and it's knocked on both ways, says the referee. That's a let-off for Atherton, a let-off for Brothers. Gee, I thought Jeff Moss was through there. He stretched out for the line, but must have been brought to ground just short. Referee Alan Delfavero right on the spot. Having quite a good game so far, Delfavero. The ball goes into the scrum. It comes out Atherton's way once again as it goes to Healy. Cuts out Curly. Larkin gets it on to Brother Ian Larkin, the fullback, chiming into the movement, but he's brought to ground 5 metres short of the line. Plays it back to Healy, running from dummy half, turns it to Warren Larkin, and Larkin has got Plumb there over the top to hold him back, and underneath was Ian Horsfall. He'll play the ball back to Broadley. Broadley to Blyton. Blyton trying to straighten up and go straight through the Brothers' defence, but there's plenty of it, and they hold him out. He'll play the ball back to Gillespie. Throws a beautiful dummy, and Gillespie's gone in for the first try of the match. Well, we saw that in the Sydney preliminary final yesterday. We've seen it again today. A beautiful dummy by Gary Gillespie. I spoke on Friday of the brains of this fellow. He's got plenty football brains. He threw that dummy perfectly, and every Brothers player, 2-man, fell for it, and he's gone in halfway between the left-hand upright and the far side touch line. Nick, 10 minutes of play in the first half. Atherton looking quite enterprising at the moment.
Well, Alf, it's certainly all Atherton. There's only 9 minutes or 10 minutes of play gone, and Atherton have been in Brothers 25 for the majority of that period of play. Brothers, when on the occasion that they have got the ball, have muffed it. They've bad passes, and they've given the possession back to Atherton, who have won the scrums 3-0 at this stage. There have been quite a few stoppages, as you've said, a few scrums and a few penalties. But Atherton, Brothers will have to back up. This is the first 10 minutes of the grand final, and they certainly don't look like grand final favourites to me at this stage. Atherton certainly on top in the first 10 minutes and deserve this try.
Well, it's Dale Healy attempting the conversion of Gary Gillespie's try. I'll leave you at Parramatta Park with the score. Atherton 3, Brothers 0. Your car can get it in Normanton. Your car can get it in Cowan. And your car can even get it in Cooktown. Your car can get it first anywhere. You can ease your cars first at Bernie and Betty's Lucky Star Petrol Station, corner of Mason and Reynolds Streets, Mareeba. Bernie and Betty's Lucky Star Petrol Station, Mareeba.
It's morning. The day is slowly waking up. Sometime during today's daylight hours, you're going to be hungry. That's when you reach for a golden Manning's pie. Manning's Pies, the oldest established pie business in the north. They've been making their traditional round golden pies for 45 years, and that taste is still traditionally great. Manning's Pies, not better than the best,
Well, Healy's attempted conversion of that goal unsuccessful, so the score remains Atherton 3, Brothers 0, and the ball has been brought back into play by Brothers. Atherton kicked back downfield, and it's now Brothers in possession 20 metres inside their own territory, right in centre field, as it goes across from the play the ball to Stephen Penny, then on to Ian Horsfall. Horsfall standing in the tackle, trying to get his pass away to Shervey, but couldn't do so, and goes to ground. Plays it now back to Cavanagh, then it goes on to Penny. Penny to Nayda, running out in the back line, but Nayda's immediately got Warren Larkin and Terry Payne around his ankles to bring him to ground. From the play the ball, it goes across I've lost the player. It was Dale Graham, in fact, who put that big kick up, and the ball was touched by Jack Duncan. And so a scrum will pack down. Only 1 metre inside Atherton's territory. Completely lost Dale Graham altogether. He's the most outstanding player on the field as far as looks and everything else goes, and I completely lost his personage. It'll be Terry Payne to put the ball into the scrum for Atherton. 1 metre inside Atherton's territory on the grandstand side of the field. It comes out Brothers' way. Agius dives on the ball, plays it back to Peter Duck, who decides to run from dummy half. He's got Jeff Moss, who follows him and brings him down from behind. Over the top, Charlie Martin. Plays it back to Cavanagh. Cavanagh gets it then onto Penny. Out it goes then to Horsfall. Horsfall trying to bounce off Gillespie. Can't do so. And over the top comes Payne to put pay to him. 10 metres inside Atherton territory. Right in centre field across to Penny. It then goes to Mick Nayda, who decides to clap on the pace up centre field. But it's little Warren Larkin underneath who pulls his progress. Running from dummy half is Lawry Cavanagh. Looking for support. Hasn't got any at all. And he's wrapped up there by 2-3 Atherton players and put to ground. Well, he was standing there. Well, he wasn't standing. He was running and calling players onto the ball. They didn't come. Back it goes again to Graham. Graham puts the big bomb up. It goes right down the throat of Jack Duncan. Can't handle it. It's knocked forward by, goes over the dead ball line. I was going to say I thought it was knocked forward by Chris Taylor, so he wouldn't have much chance of scoring. But the ball went over the line as it was. And, well, the referee must have... he must be looking at the fact that Jack Duncan put the ball to ground, so the ball is brought back up to the 25-metre mark to recommence play. And it's Blyton who takes the tap. Goes up straight up 10 metres to the Brothers' defence. It's Nayda there who brings him to ground in company with Cavanagh. He played the ball back to the Atherton hooker, who's Broadley. Broadley gets it then onto Martin, and Martin's immediately wrapped up by the Brothers' defence. Back to Broadley at dummy half. On it goes to Peter Smart, running once again close to the ruck, straight into the arms of the Brothers players, saying, "Here I am, take me if you can." And he's put to ground 5 metres inside Atherton territory. Broadley at dummy half on to Terry Payne. Out it goes into Healy. Switches back inside to Jeff Moss. Moss standing in the tackle trying to get his pass away, but can't do so. Over the top comes Plumb to put him to ground. He'll play it back to Broadley. Broadley to Payne. He's got Healy outside. Healy, a little kick over the top. It's going to be too big, and it goes out on the full, so play will go back to where he kicked the ball from. That's 10 metres inside Atherton territory, just on the grandstand side of the field, and it'll be Terry Payne's ball into the scrum. Well, as I said, after last weekend's semi-final game, I thought the game would slow down a fair bit today with Brothers playing the game very thoroughly in the forwards, and so far it has done that. The scrum winners, 2 Brothers. It comes out smartly and goes straight away from Agius on to Taylor, and Taylor's wrapped up 20 metres inside Atherton territory, just inside the grandstand touchline. He plays it back once again. Peter Duck running from dummy half, and he's immediately set upon again by Moss and Broadley. It's Cavanagh at dummy half, on to Agius, across to Penny. Penny to Dale Graham running close, gets under 2 tackles. He's got Payne around his ankles. Over the top comes Peter Smart and Dale Healy to bring him to ground. Cavanagh at dummy half onto Agius. It goes then out to Volp. Volp sets off his right foot. He's beaten 2-3 tacklers. Still going, Mick Volp. Coming from behind to hold his progress is Jeff Bignell, and Bignell brings him to ground 20 metres short of the Atherton line. Running from dummy half is Lawry Cavanagh. He scored plenty of tries from there, and he scored another one as referee Del Favero, there's the whistle, and that's a try to Lawry Cavanagh running from dummy half. All year we've seen Cavanagh score many tries from this position. A slight dummy to the open side, then run the blind side of the field. And that's how that try was scored. So it's Atherton 3, Brothers 3, and a kick to follow. That's the score at Parramatta Park.
We all know that Enzo's is open 7 days a week, and you just drive in. You don't have to get out of your car. Enzo's for quick service, open 7 days a week. Drive in soon and taste the difference. 3:24, 4 a.m.
Well, Peter Duck with his attempted conversion for Brothers from about 4 metres in from the number 2 field touchline, unsuccessful, so the score remains there with 3-all. Not a good day for kickers today, and it's Terry Payne just placing the ball on the halfway mark, drives it down into the Brothers territory. Steve Penny lets it bounce. It goes back and is picked up there finally by, who is it? It's Mick Volp, who runs up 2 or 3 steps before he's finally put to ground by Broadley. He'll play it back to Penny. Penny then on to Dale Graham, putting his head down, charging into Peter Smart, getting away from Smart, but it's finally Martin in company with Broadley who put him to ground. A dummy half Cavanagh. It goes on to Agius. Agius on to Smith, going close to the ruck, gets out of Moss's tackle, can't get away, finally does get away from Martin, up to 10 metres inside his own territory before he's finally halted by Blyton. Plays it back to Cavanagh. On it goes to Agius, switching play back across the other side of the field. It goes then to Peter Shervey, and Shervey is brought to ground right where the ball commenced from. It's Cavanagh to Agius. Agius then on to Horsfall. Horsfall straight into the waiting arms of Jeff Moss in company with Terry Payne. Brothers not making much progress at the moment as it goes from Cavanagh back to Agius again. On it goes to Penny. Penny running the open side of the field. has Duck in support, but Duck can't handle the pass, puts it to ground. It's picked up there by Chris Taylor, but that's a knock-on, says the referee, and a scrum will pack down 20 metres inside Brothers territory on the number 2 side of the field, the number 2 touchline side of the field, the number 2 field side, that's what I'm trying to say. It'll be Agius to put the ball into the scrum, and it goes. It comes out won by Atherton. Payne smartly gets it on to Healy. Healy's pass to Parasini's put to ground. It's picked up there by Payne once again, but that's a knock-on both ways by the... well, knock-on says... oh, it's one of those days. It's a knock-on, says the referee. Referee Del Favero. Grand final nerves getting to me more than they're getting to the players, I think. As the ball goes into the scrum, it's won by Brothers, comes out, Penny takes it smartly on the blind side of the scrum, turns it back inside to Taylor. Taylor gets away from Ross, he's got an open burst. Penny outpaces him, I think he will. There's no trouble here, and it's another try to Brothers as Chris Taylor goes in and touches down underneath the upright from a set scrum move, and a very good try from a set scrum move, Mick.
Yes, Brothers in their last 2 tries looked the better of the 2 sides here today. I think Brothers might just start to assert themselves. I think they've taken 10 minutes or so just to get into the game, and we could see them assert themselves here at the moment. That last try was particularly good. There was a lot of punching going on in the scrum that Brothers won the scrum from, and a few players paid their attention more to the fight than to the game, and Brothers Chris Taylor scored an easy try, as it turned out, right beside the upright.
Well, he's had to run some, what would he run? Some 40-odd metres.
Yeah, the defence was very weak. The thing that he ran the 40-odd metres for, doesn't say much for the Atherton defence.
Yes, he's completely outstreeted the Atherton defence, and that's all there was to it. Well, here's the first kick of the day that's gone between the sticks, and Peter Duck putting the extras on the board. So that's 1 conversion from 2 kicks to Peter Duck, none from 2 to Dale Healy. Brothers going to a further lead now of 8 points to Atherton's 3. Dale Healy bringing the ball up to the halfway mark to recommence play. And as he does, it'll be a short kick, a very shallow kick, just goes to 10 metres. Adrian Smith knocks it to ground with his knees, then dives on it. And he's immediately dived upon by Parasini. Plays it back to Shervey, and Shervey, running from dummy half, tries to bullock his way up, but can't do so as Jeff Moss puts him straight to ground. It goes across the field now to Penny. Penny, a short pass to Miles. Plumb running through the back line, and he's bounced out of Terry Payne's tackle. Payne, in fact, holding his elbow as he lies on the ground. From the play, the ball across to Mick Agius, running wide. He's got Peter Duck, but Duck runs straight into Parasini, taking no nonsense from Peter Duck today, Steve Parasini. Plays it back to Smith. It goes then to Penny. Penny to Shervey. Shervey's got broadly around one ankle and brings him to ground just short of the halfway line in centre field as it goes across to Steve Penny, running the open side of the field. Penny straight up through, beats Gillespie's tackle, up through the centre field, up over the halfway mark, gives it to Cavanagh. Cavanagh trying to get away from Ian Larkin, the fullback, but that was a last-ditch tackle too. He got him by the boot, and that was all there was in it. 10 metres inside Atherton territory, running from dummy half is Horsfall, and Horsfall up through centre field, a 6th tackle for Brothers, and by gee, that's a let-off too for Atherton.
Yeah, Brothers certainly on the attack at the moment. A great run by Steve Penny. He's very elusive. He's got Atherton on the back pedal at the moment.
As the ball goes into the scrum, it's Payne's ball into the scrum. Comes out Brothers' way. They're starting to get their straps together in the scrums now. And Brothers winning a feast of ball as it goes across from Horsfall to Penny. Penny to Taylor up into the back line. Taylor trying to get away from Parasini, but can't do so. Wraps him up and puts him to ground. He'll play the ball back to Steve Penny at dummy half. Penny gives it then on to Shervey. Shervey doing a lot of running from that position back behind the backs, chiming onto the ball, and that's a good running too for a second rower. It goes across to Agius, then on to Adrian Smith, and Smith has burst through. There's another one. They're making it look easy at the moment. Went through 2 Atherton players as if they weren't there. I won't say who the players were, but one of them has been one of Atherton's best players for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Mick, hope Atherton put their defence together a little bit better.
Well, I'd say with just 22 minutes to go, Brothers in those last 2 tries have made hacks of Atherton, and with some 60 minutes to go in the game, Atherton will want to pull their socks up, otherwise this could be a procession.
Most certainly could. The score at Parramatta Park, Brothers 11, Atherton 3 with a kick to follow. That's the score from Parramatta Park.
It's morning. The day is... and that taste is still traditionally great. Manning's Pies. Not better than the best, but better than the rest.
Good afternoon. It's right on 3:30 now.
Your
Your car can get it in Normanton. Your car can get it in Cowan. And your car can even get it in Cooktown. Your car can get a thirst anywhere. You can ease your car's thirst at Bernie and Betty's Lucky Star Petrol Station, corner of Mason and Randall Streets, Mareeba. They're open with friendly service 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. weekdays, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturdays, and for the Sunday car, 8 to 12 noon. When your car needs it, satisfy it at Bernie and Betty's Lucky Star Petrol Station, Mareeba. 4 a.m. Well, Peter Duck doing the right thing by way of Brothers that time, putting the kick straight through the stick. So Brothers have gone to 2 converted tries ahead of Atherton at the moment. It's Brothers 13, Atherton 3, as it's Brothers in attack once again on the quarter line, 2 metres inside their own territory, right on the halfway mark, I should say, 2 metres inside their own territory, right in centre field, as getting up to play the ball is Horsfall, plays it back to Cavanagh. It goes on to Mick Agius, calling for a dummy kick there and deciding to run across field, running backwards to get away from Smart. Gets his pass on to Graham. Graham is collared around the ears. He gets his pass in the tackle away to Peter Smart, but to Peter Smart. I've got Peter Smart on the right brain. It was Peter Duck. And the pass to Duck actually went forward, according to referee Del Favero. And as he's backing down the scrum, he's speaking to an Atherton player there in Mark Broadley about going a little bit high on Graham. From the scrum, it's won again by Brothers, getting all the ball as Mick Agius runs the open side, turns it back inside to Shervey. Shervey is immediately wrapped up there by 3 or 4 Atherton players, including Curly Larkin, Terry Payne, and Dale Healy. And now from the play the ball across the penny. It goes to Graham. Graham out to Volp. Volp high-stepping, loses his footing, in fact, and he's brought to ground right on the quarter line on the far side of the field. Taylor at dummy half holds the ball up, dummies to 2 players, then finally gets it on to Plumb, and Plumb up centre field before he's brought to ground. Not making a lot of ground going across field, the Brothers players at the moment, as it goes across to Agius, then on to Dale Graham. Graham to trying to get out of Payne's tackle, but he can't do so, and he's wrapped up immediately. Payne lying on the ground in a bit of pain here. Excuse the pun there, I didn't intend that, as the ball comes back across the field. 6 tackle for Brothers. Now, Terry Payne earlier on in the game stayed on the ground and held what appeared to be his arm, and after that tackle he was holding his ribs as he got up, so he may have copped a boot in performing one of his tackles. From the scrum, the ball comes out. Actually, the ball was coming out the same opening, but Agius dived on it, and Payne foolishly allowed him to do so. So it's Brothers' ball running from dummy half as Peter Duck gets away from 2 players, walks straight around the marker, and he's brought to ground only fraction short of the line. From the play the ball, trying to go through is Mick Agius, but he's wrapped up there in the shadows of the line. Must only be centimetres short. Alan Del Favero having to pick himself up off the ground too. From the play the ball across to Penny. Penny standing in the tackle looking for support, finds it in Shervey. Shervey charging for the line, but he's brought down half a metre short of the line. He'll get up and play the ball back. It's Cavanagh at dummy half, signalling that he's going to pass the ball out. Doesn't do so, charges in under the sticks. Referee Alan Del Favero getting through, held up over the line, says the referee, and so a scrum will be brought out to recommence play. Well, Lawry, Cavanagh, Atherton surely should be looking for Cavanagh to do these dummies. Signified that he was definitely going out. He was calling to the Brothers' back line deep and everything else, and it was pure simply to me that he was going to come back the opposite side himself, and the Atherton players saw this. Atherton win the scrum. It comes out. Jeff Moss takes it away from the scrum, and he's wrapped up there by Horsfall in company with Graham. He'll play it back to Payne. Payne running the blind side of the field, looking to link up with Parasini, cannot do so, and he's rattled to ground by Taylor. He'll play it back to Parasini. Parasini puts his head down, runs from dummy half straight into the arms of Miles Plumb, and Plumb wraps him up. Over the top there came Shervey, having a good game, Peter Shervey. Broadly at dummy half, onto Gillespie, a short one to Peter Smart, who bounces off one player, and then is finally brought to ground by Cavanagh in company with Smith. He'll play it back. It goes to Ian Larkin, then on to Broadley. Broadley out to Warren Larkin. Larkin speeding through the Brothers' defence. Can't get away from Taylor. Taylor's got him by 1 leg up on the halfway mark, and Shervey in cover defence puts him to ground. He'll play the ball 1 metre inside Brothers' territory. It goes across to Charlie Martin, running across field, trying to link up at the back. Finds Ian Larkin, steps around 2 players. Can't get away from Taylor. Once again, the last line of defence. The Brothers getting up there. They're looking a bit scrappy at the moment now. As it goes across to Healy. Healy has Warren Larkin chiming onto the ball once again. Gets the ball pulled out of his hands. It's picked up by Jack Duncan. Goes forward, and we'll play the scrum for the knock-on, says the referee. Well, after we were just saying about Atherton being a little bit ragged in their defence, Atherton were making Brothers look very, very ragged then, and in no mean order also. Referee speaking to the forward packs once again. Putting the ball in is Agius. It's won by Brothers. Most definitely had to be won by Brothers, I'd say. And he comes away from the scrum with it after diving on it. Payne allowed him to get up, and it's Moss who brings him to ground on the quarter line, just inside the grandstand touchline. Running from dummy half is Brown. He has Moss going underneath and broadly over the top to put him to ground. Play the ball back to Cavanagh. It goes in onto Smith. Smith to Plumb. Plumb bounces off Charlie Martin. Can't get away from Broadley, in company with Terry Payne, who goes low to put him to ground. 20 metres inside of Atherton Brothers territory, I should say, as it goes across to Dale Graham on the quarter line. They're losing a bit of ground. Now he's broken away from all those players, Graham. He's up over the halfway mark before he's finally brought to ground by Parasini, 2 metres inside Atherton territory. On the halfway mark, Stephen Penny gets his pass back. It goes to Agius, chiming onto the ball. Then to Peter Duck at full flight, but Jack Duncan puts pay to him, stands in the tackle, gets his pass away to Chris Taylor. Taylor gets away from Larkin, and he'll go in and score another try. And there's Taylor's second try for the day. He's put that ball down 2 metres in from the grandstand touchline. Chris Taylor and Brothers once again on the boil after, well, there's still 12 minutes of play remaining in this. I don't think there's another man out there that has even put their boot to the ball at any particular stage of the game. But right now, attempting that conversion of Chris Taylor's try is Peter Duck. And only 10 minutes of play, 11 minutes of play now remaining in this first half. And already it's Brothers 16 leading Atherton 3. Peter Duck puts his boot to the ball. Oh, he's muffed that completely. It's pulled right away to the left-hand side of the upright. So the score remains at Brothers 16, Atherton 3. And to recommence play for Atherton will be Terry Payne, bringing the ball up to the halfway mark. Mark Fox going onto the field now to replace Dale Healy. As I said, a big blow for Atherton. Payne to recommence play. Referee Del Favero blows play back on. A short, narrow kick just goes to 10 metres straight into Adrian Smith's arms, and he's immediately bundled up right on the 10-metre mark on the grandstand touchline. He plays the ball back to Dale Graham, running from dummy half, puts his head down, but Blyton is there in company with Fox and Broadley, who's doing a lot of tackling today too, Mark Broadley. He plays it back to Cavanagh. On it goes to Agius, to Penny. Penny to Shervey. The ball's put to ground. It was Nayda. In fact, it's picked up by Atherton there in flight now as Jack Bignell in turn puts it to ground and picked up after all that by Peter Duck. The referee says no thanks, we've had enough errors so far, and the comedy's got to stop somewhere. So a scrum will pack down almost right in centre field, just on the far side of the field, the stable side of the field, right on the quarter line in Brothers territory. Well, the spectators may be queuing up to ask for their money back at the end of this game, if they're not a Brothers supporter anyway. That scrum is won by Atherton. Terry Payne taking it away down the blind side of the field, but Agius follows him and brings him to ground. Running from dummy half is Parasini, but Parasini immediately has Duck around his shorts and slings him to ground. Payne at dummy half onto Moss. Moss stands there, gives it on to now to Martin, who gets through the first two tackles, gives it to Broadley, and Broadley's immediately nicely served up, thank you very much, by Miles Plumb in company with Horsfall and Smith. From the play the ball, it goes across to Gillespie. Gillespie onto Warren Larkin, to his brother Ian Larkin. A nice tackle, a beautiful tackle by Dale Graham, brings him to ground. Plays it back to Donnell. Donnell to Gillespie. Gillespie shows it to Jack Duncan, goes himself, but he's immediately wrapped up 20 metres short of Brothers' line as John Blyton going up centre field. Blyton stepping away from 1-2 tackles, gets his pass on to Fox. That Fox is brought to ground, loses the ball as he goes to ground, and that's where the scrum will pack down 10 metres short, 15 metres short of the Brothers' line, just on the grandstand side of the field. This scrum is won by, comes out, and Brothers player having his foot over the tunnel. And we'll take this opportunity to give you the scores on the minor grades. The B grade game went to Brothers to the tune of 22 points to Kangaroos 12. The reserve, the C grade game went to Brothers 25, Mariba 10, and the under 18 grade game to Kangaroos 27, Brothers 21. Atherton quickly taking the tap and going from dummy half is Mark Broadley, and Broadley's gone in underneath the stick. Well, a very elementary try to Atherton taking, they took the tap quicker, was Fox, I think, who got up and played the ball very quickly. Broadley saw his opportunity, being a good hooker, a good dummy half man, and he immediately speared through and scored Atherton's second try right underneath the sticks. So it's Brothers 16, Atherton 8, with a kick to follow. That's the score at Parramatta Park.
And you just drive in. You don't have to get out of your car. Enzo's for quick service, open 7 days a week. Drive in soon and taste the difference.
Good afternoon. It's right on 20 to 4 on 4 a.m. We all know that petrol prices are constantly on the rise of maintaining that high standard. So next time you fill up, experience the personal touch at the Shell Atherton in Main Street.
4 a.m.
Well, it didn't take Atherton long to find themselves a replacement kicker. Jeff Moss taking over the role of kicking, and it went straight through the centre of the upright, so it's 16-8 in favour of Brothers as Jack Duncan from the kick-off brings the ball up to 5 metres short of the line before he's brought to ground. Loses the ball in the tackle. It goes forward, picked up by Chris Taylor, so it's Brothers in possession, and Taylor's brought to ground by Fox, 1 metre inside his own territory on the grandstand side of the field. He'll play the ball back to Shervey, getting up very sick Taylor. Shervey trying to run from dummy half, only gets the 1 metre to the halfway mark before Fox picks him up in company with Broadley and puts him to ground. From dummy half goes Cavanagh, gets it across then to Plumb. Plumb running up through centre field, gets up 2 metres inside, 3 metres make that inside Atherton territory before he's brought to ground. Kavanagh on to Penny. It goes into Dale Graham. Graham ironing through with all sorts of bursts. He's playing a determined game, Dale Graham, before he's brought to ground. He'll play the ball. It goes back across the field to Agius. Agius gets it on to Plumb. Plumb to Volp. Volp turns it back inside to a supporting player there in Peter Duck. But Duck is immediately brought to ground by Fox. He'll play the ball. It goes across then to Nayda. Nayda is wrapped up there by Fox in company with Blyton, and that's the 6th tackle for Brothers. Well, Brothers, 6 tackles. They've made only 10 metres up into the Atherton territory, so they've only made 11 metres from getting the ball. There's some good defensive work there by Atherton. It's about time they started getting defence going, but we must say at the same time the Brothers continue to run that ball close to the ruck and run it very hard. See, Dale Graham's got his mind put on this job today. This scrum's won by Atherton. Taking it around the open side is Payne. Gets it on to Warren Larkin. Larkin to Bignell. Bignell's pass to Perricini's knocked to ground by Duck, and Perricini's got to go back and pick it up. In fact, goes into touch as he picks it up. So that'll be a scrum packing down 15 metres inside Atherton territory. Very scrappy. Bignell, I don't think Bignell had too much sight of Perricini at all when he tried to whiz that pass off, and it was very lucky for Atherton that Peter Duck couldn't execute the intercept. This scrum's won by Atherton as Agius it is comes around the open side, but immediately wrapped up there by the Atherton players. He'll play it back now to Horsfall running from dummy half on to Steve Penny. Penny gets out of Gillespie's tackle, gets away from Warren Larkin. Ian Larkin collars him, and Warren Larkin comes from behind to finish him off. At dummy half is Cavanagh. On the quarter line, right in centre field in Atherton territory. Running across field is Agius, gets it on to Peter Duck. Peter Duck immediately picked up there by Perricini. Gets his pass away to Adrian Smith, and Smith goes in as simple as you like and puts the ball down halfway between the far side touchline and the right-hand side of the upright. So Brothers putting extras onto the board at very much at random here at the moment. It's Brothers 19 leading Atherton 8. Mick, will the game continue in this same vein? That's the only question at the moment.
Yes, Alf, it was great work there by Peter Duck. He ran onto the ball very strong. He took the tackle and looked for his support, and he found it in Adrian Smith, who's playing a particularly good game today. Very strong in and around the rucks, and he's backing up. He's looking for the ball whenever the opportunity presents itself, and he scored himself, ran around virtually untouched to score his 2nd try of the match.
Really, Mick, we can't take anything away from any of the Brothers players at the moment. They're all executing themselves very well to their job, especially the forwards.
Well, Alf, it's the old saying, you can't do any better than win, and they're in front and they're staying in front. Atherton came back, scored that try, but Brothers have answered it almost immediately with another try, so it puts them more or less in the same position. They're just holding that advantage, but we would like to see a little bit more consistency on both sides as far as the spectators are concerned for grand final football.
Yes, it is very scrappy. The whole semi-finals, really, I've remarked before, so I don't think I'm out of tune in remarking on this stage that the whole semi-finals really have not been up to what I consider good standard for final time football, when defence should be a good solid matter of the day, and that is just what we're not seeing at the moment is good defence. Okay, we're seeing some good attacking football, players running onto the ball getting plenty of air, but we're not seeing the defence that we should be seeing in a grand final. And Peter Duck's attempted conversion of that try unsuccessful, so that's 2 from 4, I should say, for Peter Duck, as the ball is driven off by Terry Payne down into Atherton's to Brothers territory, I should say, picked up by Adrian Smith on the 10-metre mark in his own territory and goes straight to ground. He'll play the ball back to Cavanagh. Cavanagh gets it on to Agius. Agius then to Miles. Plumb running close. These forwards, big forwards for Brothers, standing well back and chiming onto the ball through the back line, must be making it very hard for the Atherton forwards. Cavanagh to Penny. Penny a short one then to Nayda. Nayda is immediately wrapped up and brought to ground on the 10-metre mark, just on the grandstand side of the field by Larkin. He plays it back. It goes across to Dale Graham, whose pass to Ron Brown was very much in front of that player, couldn't handle it, and almost knocked us right off our perch here on the 10-metre mark. In fact, it's about 8 metres inside Brothers territory on the grandstand side of the field. Mick Agius to put the ball into the scrum for Brothers. In it goes. Comes out Atherton's way. That was a good scrum win for Atherton, as Payne immediately fires it off there. It goes on to Larkin. Larkin trying to get away from the defence. Can't do so. He's got Steve Penny, who's hitting his straps at the right time, Penny. And he's got Larkin around the ankles. He plays it back to Moss, running from dummy half. Goes across field, and he's immediately wrapped up just short of the quarter line. That'll do for half-time, says the referee. So at half-time, as the players leave the field, it's Brothers 19 leading Atherton 8. Brothers 19 leading Atherton 8 at half-time. And with his half-time comments on the game, former state hooker, it's Mick Lill.
Thanks, Alf. Well, for a grand final football in this competition in the north, it's a little bit disappointing to the people that have come here, I should imagine. Brothers are certainly well in front. They seem to be coasting. They're not really putting the pressure on as they should be. They seem to be scoring almost at will, but their defence is lacking, as it is with Atherton. And this has been a big feature in players in the last couple of years. Teams, they're not defending like they should, and we're seeing the ball thrown around. Okay, that's great to see tries scored and so on, but the name of the game is defence and attack, and we should see both of it. The first 10 minutes was very slow, and it was all territorially Atherton. They persisted in the 25 of Brothers, and they looked as if they were going to be a force in the competition for today. But Brothers came back, and when they asserted themselves, they took that first 10 minutes to get going, but then after 20 minutes they led 13-3, half-time 19-8, and I think, Alf, that we'll be looking forward to a very monotonous second half as Brothers. I think Stanley Williams, ex-Queensland player, I think Stanley will have something to say to these players at half-time, Brothers, and I think they should come out and really dominate this Atherton attack and get right on top and go further ahead.
It looks fairly obvious at the moment, Mick, that Brothers are really and truly keyed up for this game. They're right in tune for the game, whereas Atherton are going out there possibly without that psychological effect that they should have. To recommence the second half of play in the 1981 Grand Final. We come into the second half with Brothers leading Atherton to the tune of 19 points to 8, and kicking the ball off for Brothers, I should say, was Mick Agius. Went straight down to Jeff Moss, and Moss is brought to ground on the quarter line in almost in centre field, and immediately Brothers being penalised for offside in that play of the ball. Haven't seen too many offside penalties today either. Referee Del Favero's had a reasonably easy game to control here today, as it's Mark Fox who takes the kick for the grandstand touchline and drives the ball into touch right on the 15-metre mark inside Atherton territory. It's Charlie Martin taking the tap, gets it then on to Blyton, I should say. Blyton turns it back outside to Peter Smart. Smart up to 8 metres from the halfway mark before he's brought to ground at the feet of Nayda and Plumb. He played it back to Broadley. It goes then on to Blyton, who gives it to Charlie Martin running close to the ruck. Martin up to 2 metres short of halfway before he's brought to ground. From dummy half it goes across to Payne. Payne then on to Gillespie. Gillespie looking for anything that's going at the moment, and he's brought to ground 5 metres short of the halfway mark in centre field. Fox, it is running from dummy half. He gets it then finally onto Blyton, and Blyton's up over the halfway mark before he's brought to ground. At dummy half is Jeff Moss this time. It goes on to Terry Payne, then on to Charlie Martin. Martin puts his head down and charges up. They're not making much ground whatsoever. They're still only 1 metre inside Brothers territory as Payne gives it to Smart. On it goes into Gillespie. Gillespie, a torpedo pass out to Donnell, but Donnell's got Shervey there in company with Peter Duck to put him to ground 10 metres inside Atherton territory on the grandstand side of the field. Atherton looking to throw it about, but Brothers obviously got a couple of little whispers from their men sitting on the sideline at half-time and said that the referee doesn't appear to be looking for this, that and something else. Try him out. And that scrum is won by Atherton, and the blue erupts in the scrum, and here we have Brothers running away from the scrum is Ian Horsfall. He turns the ball back inside to Chris Taylor. Taylor stands in the tackle. They've only got 15 metres to go to the Atherton line, and there's only 3 Atherton players there who want to tackle. All the rest of them wanted to stay back in the scrum and fight. As from the play, the ball is knocked down by Jack Duncan, and yet another blue erupts down on the grandstand side of the field. This time, referee Del Favero says, yes, I'll blow the whistle and tell you to stop fighting. Well, Mick, I thought referee Del Favero did the right thing when that little skirmish erupted in that scrum back there and let them fight on.
Yes, he just ignored the ensuing blue from the scrum, and the Brothers came away from it, and this is the second time that we've seen. The first time in the first half, Brothers scored a try, and they almost did in this time too. That they got on with the game. There was a fight going on in the scrum. Alan Del Favero, rightfully, I would say, turned his back on it, and if they want to fight, well, let them go.
Well, it's a typical situation of, as you said, Mick, with that other try that was scored, a little blue in the scrum. Well, what's that got to do with open play? But the silly part of it is that half the Atherton backs decided to get in there and help the forwards out in the scrum. Well, we have referee Del Favero speaking to the 2 captains at the moment. He's decided, OK, we've had enough of this monkey business. So I'll remind you, we'll cross back for an ad break while the talks are going on. And, well, no, we won't. We'll hold it here, Carl. He's decided to pack the scrum back down again now. So all the talks are over, and it'll be Terry Payne to put the ball into the scrum, 15 metres short of the Atherton line, as this ball is won by Brothers, and it's Agius diving on the scrum at the base of the ruck, who tries to get up as Payne lying all over top of him. Now gets up, plays it back to Horsfall. Horsfall runs from dummy half, tries to get away from the last-stitching tackle there of Terry Payne, who brings him to ground, only 10 metres short of the line, plays it back to Cavanagh. It goes across then to Penny. Penny turns the ball on to Graham, it is, trying to get away from 2-3 Atherton players, but he's finally brought to ground right in centre field, 15 metres short of the line, as Cavanagh gets it then on to Steve Penny, going back, coming straight back into the forwards. There's no gap there, and Penny is bundled up. He's not a big player at all, and he's bundled up and pushed backwards. They're actually losing ground as it goes across field. Now to Agius. Agius gets away from Peter Smart, can't get away from Charlie Martin, and finally over the top comes Ian Larkin. He'll play the ball back to Lawry Cavanagh. It goes on to Ian Horsfall. Horsfall, a little chip over the top, following it through, is picked up by Mark Fox, who went back smartly and picked it up, however. He'll get up and play the ball back to Jeff Moss. Moss deciding to run from dummy half, and Brothers all up inside the 5 metres. I tell you what, Chris Taylor was lucky to be onside the fullback. He was standing almost right beside Alan Del Favero. So Atherton take the quick tap and decide to run it out up the 10 metres. That's not bad tactics either, but territorially it's not really the place to do it. As Moss gets up, plays the ball back now to Broadley, just over the quarter line in centre field in Atherton territory. It goes across to Peter Smart. Smart standing in the tackle, gives it to Charlie Martin. He in turn stands in the tackle, gives it to Blyton. Blyton's pass goes backwards, goes to ground, I should say. No one wants it. It's Broadley who finally goes back and picks it up. He'll play the ball back to Terry Payne. On the 10-metre mark in Atherton territory, it goes to Gillespie on to Moss. Moss out to Curly Larkin. Larkin trying to palm off Agius, can't do so. He's wrapped up by Agius, and over the top comes it's Mick Volp, who helps put him to ground. He'll play the ball back to Bignell, running from dummy half. Can't get away from Peter Shervey, and Lawry Cavanagh comes over the top and puts his hand on his face to give him a little massage at the same time. Dummy half this time is Ian Larkin, gives it to Broadley, turns it back inside, I should say Blyton turns it back inside to Broadley, and Broadley's brought to ground on the halfway mark, just on the grandstand side of the field. That's the 6th tackle for Atherton. After 5 minutes of play in the second half, it's no addition to the score as yet, and Brothers still showing their supremacy at the moment. Atherton having most of the share of the ball, however. This time it comes out Brothers' way, and Mick Agius being penalised for being penalised for not retiring. Terry Payne having something to say as he dives on Mick Agius. Agius left the ball there and went racing after Terry Payne as he headed off down the field. And referee Del Favero finally bringing Terry Payne back and having a few harsh words to say to the little fellow. They don't call him the stary little mouse for nothing, and he is too. He puts the sting right in. That was a good kick by Fox, I should say, for Atherton. He's brought play up to 20 metres from the Brothers' line, is taking the tap and running himself as Steve Perricini straight into the waiting arms of Cavanagh, in company there with Smith. He'll play the ball back to Broadley. It goes across to Blyton. Blyton trying to straighten the move up, gives the ball on to Moss. Moss puts it to ground, and the scrum will back down 20 metres from the Brothers' line, right in centre field.
If Atherton are any chance in this game, this is the period that they've got to get on top. The man that's going to do it for them is going to be John Blyton, and he's got to get his team going. They're having a scrum now in the 25, in the 10 yards in the 25 of Brothers territory, and they've won the scrum, and this is where they've got to do it.
And it comes across. Payne dives, Sally dives the ball straight out to Ian Larkin, and Larkin's immediately set upon by Brothers players, plays it back to Gillespie. Gillespie onto Charlie Martin, steps off his left foot, beats 2 tackles before coming to put pay to him. Is Horsfall, he'll play the ball back to Payne. Payne gets it onto Fox, Fox off his left, right, then his right foot again, and finally he's crashing towards the line. He can only be, I'd say, about 2 metres at the most, short of the line. As he bounces up, plays the ball back to Broadley. Broadley gets his pass onto Gillespie, fires it quickly out to Blyton. Blyton can't handle the ball, puts it to ground right in front of the post, about 15 metres out. Well, that's almost exactly where the last scrum was set down, and that's where this one will be set down from again.
Yeah, exactly the same spot, Alf. This is their chance, Atherton, and they can still get back into this game.
Well, no, they can't now, because Brothers have won this one as Agius takes the ball, runs the open side of the field, or the grandstand side of the field in this case, before he's finally wrapped up by Payne. He'll get up and play the ball back to Horsfall, deciding to go back the open side of the field. Up centre field goes Horsfall, before Moss comes from behind and brings him to ground, and also Fox over there to help put him to ground. He'll play the ball back now. It goes to Cavanagh. On it goes then to Adrian Smith, and failing to play the ball properly once again, says referee Alden Dalfavero, and this could be a 2-pointer for Atherton, right in front of the sticks. What are they going to do?
They'd have to take the 2.
Well, you'd think they'd have to take the 2. Well, they're not. John Blyton takes the tap, then serves it on to Jeff Moss, who I thought could have had 2 points on the board, no trouble at all. And Moss is brought down without actually gaining his 10 metres too. He'll play the ball back to Broadley. Broadley on to Payne. Payne to Gillespie. Gillespie has Larkin chiming onto the ball, Warren Larkin, but he's immediately picked up by his opposite there in Volp and put to ground. Still 15 metres short of the Brothers' line as Broadley gets his pass out to Gillespie on to Jeff Durnell, who tries to come back inside of Nayda's tackle but can't do so. And over the top to help put him to ground there was Shervey. Is play the ball back to Terry Payne, who gets it on in turn to Peter Smart, and Smart's wrapped up 5 metres short of the line. Back in centre field once again as Gary Gillespie dummies at dummy half, then finally gets his pass away to Charlie Martin, but Martin's wrapped up, nowhere to go. Last tackle coming up for Atherton. Atherton and Charlie, who is it? Couldn't be Charlie Martin running from dummy half, whoever it was anyway, got his pass to Broadley. His pass to Payne is finally put backwards by Payne, and going through to pick it up is Dale Graham for Atherton, knocking the ball forward. Was he talking about a headbutt there at the same time? What's he doing?
I think it's just a knock-on.
Just a knock-on. Waving his head up and down. Can make it a little bit complicating at times, referee Dalfavero, but nevertheless having quite a good game here today, referee Dalfavero. Not that he's had all that much work to do, really. Been a good, clean, open game as the ball comes straight out of the scrum, and he's penalising, who is it, Broadley, penalising for foot over in the tunnel this time. They're all inside their own quarter. And to relieve their position somewhat is Mick Volp, kicking for the grandstand touchline, and finds touch almost 10 metres from halfway. So he's brought play up to about 40 metres from his own goal line. He'll play the ball, tapping the ball, I should say, as Lawry Cavanagh gives it on to Adrian Smith, who in turn gives it to his front row compatriot in Miles Plumb, and Plumb's brought to ground 5 metres short of the halfway mark in centre field as the ball goes across the back line then to Mick Nayda, and Mick Nayda running in the back line, I should say. He's actually a second row forward, but as I said earlier in the game, these forwards are doing it well, standing out in the back line. They're putting the pressure on Atherton as it goes across this time to Taylor. Taylor beats Peter Smart, he beats Parasini, coming back inside, can't get away from Gillespie. A beautiful tackle by Gillespie, puts Chris Taylor to ground right on the 10-metre mark on the grandstand side of the field, plays it back to Agius. It goes across to Penny. Penny has Shervey out there. Shervey gets it on in turn to Volp. Volp beat 1-2 players back up to the 10-metre mark in centre field before he's brought to ground. Not making a lot of ground, Brothers, but they're throwing the ball about and looking good. As Stephen Penny runs back across field, has Agius. Here's an overlap. Here's Taylor calling Duck back inside, but Duck's immediately got Payne around his legs, and the little fellow puts the tall, lanky winger to ground, only, well, just short of the 25-metre mark, about 20 metres short, I should say 20 metres inside Atherton territory on the grandstand side of the field. Terry Payne's ball into the scrum for Atherton. Comes out Atherton's way. Payne knocking the ball forward. I thought that'd come off his shin there, but nevertheless...
He did. He definitely kicked the ball forward.
Come off his...
Let it go.
We're both agreeing with that, but referee Favero wants the ball back into the scrum, playing a knock-on. Payne putting the ball back into the scrum. Held up, now in it goes. It comes out decisively Atherton's way. Payne making sure of it this time, but Agius goes back and puts him to ground on the quarter line, just inside the grandstand touchline. Perricini deciding to run back infield. Beats Agius, beats Smith, but he can't get away from Cavanagh, and he puts him, it was Penny actually, who put him to ground 10 metres inside Atherton territory as Blyton gets it on to Martin. Martin charges up into the Brothers' defence. He's brought to ground 2 metres short of the halfway mark right in centre field. It was Plumb and Smith who put him to ground. He plays it back to Moss. Moss gets it on to Blyton. Blyton's pass is short one there out to Ian Larkin, the fullback, chiming onto the ball, and he's brought to ground right on the halfway mark as it goes to Fox. Fox is caught by the collar and swung to ground in turn by Mick Nayda. He'll get up and play the ball back to Ian Larkin. Ian Larkin, last tackle coming up for Atherton as goes out along the back line. Gary Gillespie puts his boot to the ball, puts it a little short one, going up high for it. Jeff Bignell, he's come down with the 2, I think, and that'll be the 6th tackle for Atherton. 10 metres inside Brothers territory.
Well, no addition to the score in the first 12 minutes in the second half. And this is what Atherton have got to do. They've got to at least hold Brothers and try to take the best of the opportunities that arise.
And those opportunities aren't coming all that well. And there's another scrum win to Brothers. It's Mick Agius, who's got to go back and pick the ball up. He's immediately dived upon by Payne. Plays it back to Brown. Brown running from dummy half up through centre field. Gets away from Moss. Can't get away from Gillespie. And a nice crashing tackle over the top there by Fox. He'll play the ball 5 metres inside his own territory to Cavanagh. Gets it across into Penny. Penny out to Mick Volp. Volp trying to get away from Bignell. Beats Bignell. Beats Larkin. Can't get away from Gary Gillespie, who brings him to ground, swings him to ground one-handedly. 5 metres inside Atherton territory. Gets up, plays the ball back to Stephen Penny. Then on it goes to Horsfall. Horsfall to Graham. Graham up centre field. He gets his pass in on to Mick Agius on the burst. Agius up for over the quarter line. His pass goes out to, who is it? Brown, is it? No, it's Peter Duck. And Duck is wrapped up and brought to ground only 20 metres short of the Atherton line. He plays it back to Taylor. It goes on to Agius. Agius to Nayda. Nayda stepping back off his right foot, but he's caught in the tackle. Stands in the tackle, gets his pass away to Horsfall, and Horsfall's brought to ground 15 metres short of the Atherton line. Brothers right on the attack here at the moment as Cavanagh serves the ball on to Agius. He gets it out to Steve Penny. Penny running across field, turns the ball back inside, a little flick pass to Dale Graham, and Graham's wrapped up and brought to ground. 6th tackle for Brothers, 20 metres inside, 20 metres short of the Atherton line, and that's where the scrum will pack down. We'll take this opportunity to tell you that the score at Parramatta Park is Brothers 19, Atherton 8.
We all know that petrol prices are constantly on the rise. You may now be looking for service stations that not only offer so-called discount petrol, but also that personal touch, like checking the tyres, oil, water and battery, cleaning the windscreen, and of course the friendly manner in which it's done. One such service station is the Shell Atherton in Main Street. Alan Scott has built a reputation of maintaining that high standard. So next time you fill up, experience the personal touch at the Shell Atherton in Main Street.
Bread from Enzo's Hot Bread Drive-In Bakery is so much tastier and so much easier to obtain. Enzo's bread is baked daily with Enzo's famous recipe. And you have a choice of white, brown, kibble, rye, Vienna, buns, bread rolls, cone buns, cream buns, and so much more. Enzo's is open 7 days a week, and you just drive in. You don't have to get out of your car. Enzo's, for quick service, open 7 days a week. Try them soon and taste the difference.
4 a.m.
Well, I could have held on here for another minute, I suppose, as Stephen Penny, the little 5'8" for Brothers, who I think is having a brilliant game today. Early in the season, we saw Steve Penny at his absolute best. He's getting back to that form right now, and he's speared in.
No addition in this first 14 minutes in this half, but the little try by Steve Penny probably put paid to Atherton's chances of getting back into this game. They've gone further ahead. I think that when they had the opportunity to take the 2 points early in the second half, it could have brought them 19-10, and it might have given them some sort of psychological advantage. But now this try and the attempted conversion by Peter Duck, I think, has almost put paid to Atherton's chances.
Well, Atherton strapper Kev Shaw turning on a little bit of Sydney football style. Strapping behind the goal line at the moment, got the Atherton boys into a huddle and well and truly laid the law of the land down to him, much to the disgust of one of the linesmen, who was told by referee Delpha Vera that it was quite legal and could be done, in fact. And that kick by Peter Duck straight through the upright, so he started off his second half quite well with one kick from his only attempt. So that's 5 points, the extra 2 points going onto the board now, so 15 minutes of play in the second half. It's Brothers 24 leading Atherton 8 as Terry Payne brings the ball up to halfway to recommence play. And it'll be a shallow kick once again, a high spiralling kick, in fact, taken nicely by Shervey. And Shervey's immediately set upon by Blyton in company with Broadley. Gee, I can't get over the amount of work young Mark Broadley's been doing in the defensive department, especially as from the play the ball, it goes across to Mick Nayda. And Nayda trying to go up centre field, has nowhere to go. Jeff Moss and Charlie Martin are there to bring him to ground. He'll play the ball back to Lawry Cavanagh. It goes on to Mick Agius. Agius to Miles Plumb. Plumb straight into the Atherton defence. Three of them pick him up. In fact, the biggest man in the brothers' side, they pick him up and cart him back 2 metres before they put him to ground. He plays the ball back to Cavanagh. Cavanagh deciding to run from dummy half. Goes the open side, then switches and goes back to blind side. Makes 2 or 3 metres before Blyton and Fox put him to ground. He played the ball back to Horsfall. Horsfall gets it on to Nayda. Nayda putting his head down with a bullocking charging run, and he gets up to 2 metres short of the halfway mark in his own territory before he's brought to ground. We'll play the ball back to Brown. Brown running from dummy half. Bounces off of Charlie Martin and goes underneath Peter Smart's tackle, but Smart comes again and brings him to ground right on the halfway mark, almost in centre field, just on the staple side of the field, the number 2 field side of the ground. It'll be Mick Agius to put the ball into the scrum for Brothers. Agius puts it in. It'll come out Atherton's way. Yes, it does. Payne gets it on to Gillespie, standing at 5'8". His pass goes straight over the head of Warren Larkin, picked up by Ian Larkin. His pass to Jeff Donnell's a shocker. He's got to go down to his knees to pick it up. He has finally brought to ground 5 metres inside Brothers' territory. Plays it back to Gillespie. It goes on to Ian Larkin. Ian Larkin trying to go back up in field. There's no room there whatsoever. And he's picked up by 2-3 Brothers players and wrestled to ground. Plays it back to Gillespie. It goes to Blyton. Blyton to Parasini running close to him on the grandstand touchline. And Parasini's brought to ground on the quarter line. And what's happened there? There's going to be a penalty kick to Atherton, yes. Brothers player striking for the ball before the Atherton player had a chance to play the ball. So a penalty kick to Atherton will be taken right on the quarter line, only about 2 metres in from the grandstand touchline. Blyton takes it quick, gives it then on to Parasini, who tries to charge through the Atherton, through the Brothers forwards, but they're all there. The whole 3 big fellas, Smith, Plumb and Nayda, to put him to ground. Plays it back. It goes across to Gillespie. Gillespie on to Fox. Fox out to Larkin. Warren Larkin. Larkin beat 2-3 defenders before he's brought to ground in the shadows of the post. He'll get up when he's allowed to get up and play it. Now he does. Plays it back to Gillespie. It goes on to Moss. Moss out to Charlie Martin, running wide, but Martin's brought to ground. The Brothers' defence more than to the occasion to bring him to ground. He'll play it back to Moss. Moss shaping the open side of the field. Finally sends it that way to Mark Fox, and Fox is brought down in the shadows of the post once again. They're back to where the fun started before, as it goes to Blyton, then on to Gillespie. Gillespie holding the ball up and finally getting his pass away to absolutely no one. Dale Graham was standing there wondering what was going on, fell on the ball, gets up, plays it back to Mick Agius, who runs the grandstand side of the field, switches, tries to go back inside, but Donnell's there to bring him to ground. He'll play it back to Stephen Penny. Penny gets it out to Adrian Smith. Smith then on to his friend in Miles Plumb from the front row, and Plumb's up over the quarter line before he's bulldog wrestled to ground by little Warren Larkin. Underneath was Mark Broadley. Plays it back to Lawry Cavanagh. It goes in on to Mick Agius. Then he turns it out to Ian Horsfall running upfield. Horsfall's got 3 Atherton defenders there. Terry Payne predominant around the ankles, and over the top was Fox. He'll play it back. It's kicking from dummy half as Lawry Cavanagh. That's not what you're supposed to do, Lawry Cavanagh. You're a good hooker, a good dummy half man, but to take a ball straight from dummy half and reef it out like that is, well, it's okay if you're from on the quarter line right in centre field. Mick Agius to put the ball into the scrum for Brothers, and immediately referee Del Favero points his arm towards Atherton and says there's 2 points there if you want it this time. On the quarter line in Atherton territory, no. Fox immediately takes a tap, runs up the 10 metres, tries to spin out of Cavanagh's tackle, can't quite do so. Over the top comes Adrian Smith to put him to ground, plays it back to Broadley. Broadley gets it on to Blyton. Blyton's trying to shape up his back line, can't get them moving together though, and he goes to ground about 10 metres short of the line. In a dummy half is Jeff Moss. He'll get his pass away now, does on to Smart. Smart to Broadley. Broadley's got the 3 big fellas from Brothers there to put him to ground, and they, well, in fact, they don't put him to ground. He stands up in the tackle, does it well. Peter Smart going from dummy half, and he's over underneath the sticks. Had to go around 2 Brothers players to get that ball down, but once again, well, another try that was made look easy.
Absolutely disgraceful defence on Brothers' part. That fellow just walked around 2 players and put the ball down under the post. But Atherton, you know, it's probably a little bit late for their effort, but they're putting in some sort of effort that their supporters would expect of them.
I see Charlie Martin down on the sideline just receiving ambulance attention there. But we'll take this opportunity as Jeff Moss lines his kick up. It's right in front. It should be another 2-pointers. To remind you the score at Parramatta Park in the 1981 Rugby League Grand Final. It's Brothers 24, Atherton 11. Your cars first at Bernie and Betty's Lucky Star Petrol Station, corner of Mason and Reynolds Streets, Mareeba. They're open with friendly service 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Weekdays, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturdays, and for the Sunday car, 8 to 12 noon. When your car needs it, satisfy it at Bernie and Betty's Lucky Star Petrol Station, Mareeba.
It's morning. The day is slowly waking up. Sometime during today's daylight hours, you're going to be hungry. That's when you reach for a golden Manning's pie. Manning's Pies, the oldest established pie business in the north. They've been making their traditional round golden pies for 45 years, and that taste is still traditionally great. Manning's Pies, not better than the best, but better than the rest.
4 a.m.
Well, we're right at the halfway mark in the second half of the 1981 Rugby League Grand Final. Jeff Moss should have been kicking earlier on in the day, I think. And Moss has put 2 kicks onto the board from 2 attempts. So Atherton now 13, Brothers 24, Atherton 13. And Brothers, Atherton, I should say, in attack on their own quarter line right in centre field from the kick-off. And Charlie Martin, it is, who, if he's ever allowed to get up, will play the ball back to Mark Broadley. Now Plumb decides to let him get up. Plays it back to Broadley. It goes on to Blyton. Switches it back inside to Mark Fox, who does a silly thing and goes straight back to where Blyton was standing, and that's where the defence was, and put him straight to ground. It was Mick Agius in company with Adrian Smith. This time it's Blyton running again and decides to shape it out the open side to Terry Payne, and Payne's immediately wrapped up and brought to ground 15 metres inside Atherton territory. Jeff Moss trying to go up centre field. Last tackle coming up for Atherton, and Mick Nayda is there in company with Miles Plumb to put him to ground 12 metres inside Atherton territory right in centre field. Well, Atherton looking towards replacements at the moment. We see Greg Parasini coming to the sideline. This is going to make it a little bit tough with 2 Parasinis out there on the field, but nevertheless, Brothers win this scrum and picking the ball up and very leisurely picking it up and very leisurely being put to ground too is Ian Horsfall. He'll play it back now to Mick Agius. Agius gets his pass on to Steve Penny. Out it goes to Mick Volp. Volp steps off his right foot, gets his pass away to Peter Duck, but Duck's immediately wrapped up there by Stephen Parasini. I'm starting to do it already, and Steve Parasini puts Peter Duck to ground in no uncertain manner. It's Brown who's come across from his wing to go into dummy half. He'll get up and play the ball back now to Cavanagh. Cavanagh almost knocked the ball on a dummy half. Gets his pass to Penny. Penny's pass then goes on to Miles Plumb, and Plumb is brought to ground by Mark Fox, who's had an absolute bottler since he's been out there. Running in now from charging hard onto the ball is Dale Graham up centre field. His pass to Horsfall is put to ground, and that's where a scrum will pack down. 20 metres inside Atherton territory. It's Peter Smart who's been replaced after that good try. Peter Smart has left the field and been replaced by Greg Parasini. So Greg Parasini going into the second row, and Charlie Martin into the front row. The first scrum with that combination has been won by Atherton as the ball's got smartly out to Jeff Moss, who was brought to ground by Penny. He'll play the ball back to Payne. On it goes into Greg Parasini. I'm new out here, he says, give me a big run, and does so straight up centre field before it's finally Shervey who brings him to ground. From the play the ball, it goes Gillespie across, then to Fox, who stands in the tackle, gets it away to Greg Parasini, standing in the tackle to Broadley. Broadley standing in the tackle in turn, getting it on to Ian Larkin. They're coming from everywhere. Atherton players allowed to stand in the tackles, and if they'd have had a little bit more force, could have been very dangerous for Brothers. The ball is kicked through by Brothers, so it's another 6 tackles for Atherton. Broadley goes back, picks it up, and he's brought to ground 9 metres inside Atherton, inside Brothers territory. At dummy half is Parasini. Stephen gives it on to Greg Parasini, brother, and he's brought to ground 10 metres inside Brothers territory. Plays it back to John Blyton. It goes on to Terry Payne. Out then to Gary Gillespie, to Warren Larkin, bursting onto the ball, beats 2-3 tacklers before Miles Plumb finally goes and gets him from behind. A nice tackle around the ankles. Plays it on to Gary Gillespie. Out to Charlie Martin, then on to Mark Fox, and Fox has got Agius around his ankles to bring him to ground. Del Favero telling Brothers, get back on side. We haven't heard too many of those sort of calls from the gallery today either, as Blyton runs close to the ruck and is immediately held up. He'll play it back to Broadley. On it goes to Payne, then out to Gillespie. Gillespie spears his pass on to Warren Larkin, who in turn turns it back inside to brother Ian Larkin, and he's wrapped up right on the quarter line, right in centre field in Brothers territory.
Good play from Atherton in the last 5 minutes or so. They're really trying hard, and this is probably their best passage of play in the whole match.
Most certainly is. They look good as they fired that along. Brothers players allowing them to stand up there through all that attack right in centre field. And from the scrum, Atherton receiving a penalty. Brothers player Mick Agius putting the ball into the second row, signifying the referee. So Atherton immediately taking the tap. It's Payne giving it straight on to Moss. Moss charging up the 10 metres to the Brothers defence before he's brought to ground. He'll play the ball back to Broadley. Broadley, Fox almost overran that ball, had to reach back to get it, and he's head tackle there, or I should say bulldog tackled into the ground by over the top was Adrian Smith. He'll play the ball back to Blyton, it is, running from dummy half, holding the ball up, trying to show it to his players, but knocks the ball on as he's brought to ground, and there'll be yet another scrum. This scrum will back down about 15 metres short of the Atherton, short of the Brothers line, I should say, on the grandstand side of the field.
Fox is having a good game for Atherton. He's trying his heart out. He's in everything.
He's working like the man that we saw last year. Mark Fox, one of the best players in the Cairns competition last year, and this time Atherton receiving another penalty and signifying a loose arm in the scrum, was it, Mick?
Yeah.
Fox taking the tap, running himself, puts his head down, tries to charge through Adrian Smith, but can't do so. He's more than willing to the task, and with the hand from Mick Nayda, put him to ground, just short of the line, plays it back to Broadley. It goes across to Terry Payne. Gary Gillespie on it, goes into Greg Parasini to Warren Larkin. He deserves a try, this little fella, but he's brought down just short of the line, only a metre short of the line. Warren Larkin, and not allowing him to get up and play the ball. Well, we've seen instances through the day where a player's taken a lot longer than that to be allowed to get up and play the ball, but referee Dale Healy's finally decided it's time. It's changed apparently, as it goes on to Charlie Martin, taking a quick tap, standing in the tackle, pivoting around and gets it onto a supporting player in Gary Gillespie, who's brought to ground just short of the line. He'll play the ball back to Blyton. Blyton spinning, trying to go the open side, a little flick pass to an Atherton player. Who is it? I can't see who the player was, but he's lost the ball anyway, so it doesn't particularly matter, and it's Brothers who will come up with it. It's Agius who comes up with the ball. Peter Shervey doesn't want to get up off the ground. He's injured a knee by the look of it.
That's bad luck because he was through. There was a certain try there.
There was a good flick pass from Blyton had it came off. Most definitely.
Yeah, a little bit low, that's all.
Cavanagh playing the ball back now to Brown. Brown deciding to run from dummy half. He hasn't seen much of the ball out on the wing, so he's trying to get into the play and come inside, and he's beaten off 3 Atherton players before Fox collars him from behind on the 25-metre mark on the grandstand side of the field. 6 more tackles, says the referee, as running across field there is Dale Graham, and Broadley it is who puts him to ground. He'll get up and play the ball back to Cavanagh. Cavanagh's pass goes then on to Adrian Smith. Smith up centre field. Brothers gradually making steady progress with these runs up through centre field. This time it's Penny going to go the outside. Gets it on to Peter Duck. Duck comes inside, beats 2-3. Now 4 players. Finally gets away from Parasini. Broadley comes again. Broadley was one of the blokes who missed him in the first place, and he brings him to ground 2 metres short of the line, short of the halfway line, I should say. Still in Brothers territory on the grandstand side of the field. It goes across from Agius to Horsfall. Horsfall gets his pass on to Miles Plumb, and Plumb again picked up and driven back 2 metres by the Atherton players. He'll play it back to Cavanagh. Cavanagh gets his pass on to Shervey. Shervey then on to a new player out in the field. I was beaten already. No, it's not. It's Mick Volp. Couldn't have done too much work today, Mick Volp. He's got a very clean jersey on. Plays the ball back to Cavanagh on the halfway mark as it comes across to Penny, across through Smith. Then it goes out to Agius. Agius has Taylor. Taylor looking to call Duck inside, but Duck not coming inside. Finally gets his pass away to Nayda. Nayda charging up through centre field. Beats 2-3 players before he's finally brought to ground 20 metres inside the Atherton territory, almost in centre field, just on the grandstand side of the field. That's where a scrum will pack down. 6 tackle for Brothers. Well, Brothers continuously charged at Atherton, and then for the last 2 tackles decided to whip the ball wide. They made little inroads, making 2 and 3 and 5 metres into the Atherton defence every time with those short runs up centre field before they finally switched it out. That scrum's been won by Atherton. Coming away with the ball is Ian Larkin from the fullback position, getting up to win it. That's how cleanly Atherton won it. And Larkin's brought to ground 20 metres inside his own territory. On the grandstand side of the field, plays it back to Moss. Moss deciding to go from dummy half. Ducks under 2 tackles, but they are both getting from behind, and they were Plumb in company with Shervey. He'll play it back to Broadley. Broadley on to the big fella John Blyton, looking to get his players working, but he's immediately set upon by Cavanagh and Penny, and his progress is halted 5 metres short of the halfway mark in Atherton territory. Brothers all up inside the 5, and that's where Atherton will take a penalty kick on the halfway mark. Well, referee Del Healy giving them an extra metre as Fox kicks for the grandstand touchline.
Time running out for Atherton. There's a little bit more than 10 minutes of play left, and Atherton have got to score a try very shortly.
Well, they're 2 converted tries behind. Brothers have got this advantage of being 11 points ahead, Mick, and that's a good advantage to hold at a time like this, isn't it?
Yes, Atherton should have taken that 2-pointer earlier in the game. That would have made that deficit 9 points instead of better than 2 converted tries.
2 converted tries are one thing, but that extra point something else. As the ball is shot across, Atherton taking the tap very quickly once again, and it goes across the Atherton back line, and it'll be Larkin who goes to ground. Curly Larkin it is who goes to ground on the quarter line in centre field. Ian Larkin it was, in fact. He plays the ball back. It goes across field then to Parasini, and Parasini is smothered immediately by the Brothers players. They're not tiring in defence much at all, Brothers, as it comes across to Fox. Fox looking to do something, can only find Jeff Moss with him and gets his pass on to Moss before Moss has Smith around his ankles, doing a tower of work in the second half also. Adrian Smith running from dummy half is Greg Perricini, but Perricini immediately set upon once again by Adrian Smith, and he's brought to ground 20 metres short of the Atherton line right in centre field as Broadley gets it on to his captain Blyton on turn out. It goes to Fox. Fox is passed to Ian Larkin. Ian Larkin puts his head down, shrugs off Dale Graham going over the top, but that's the sixth tackle for Atherton as Ian Larkin is put to ground. Atherton don't seem to be there with what's needed at the moment.
Yeah, they just can't score that try. Brothers are holding out and they're too strong.
They're very, very strong indeed, Brothers. They're not willing in any department out there, Mick, at the moment, Brothers, are they?
No, Atherton have had the advantage of about 4 free kicks in a row, and there's another one coming up now. They've had the scrum advantage in the last 10 minutes of passage of play, and they still can't score the try.
And they're continuously taking this short tap, which Brothers are well aware of, but that was taken a bit quicker by Mark Broadley, who ran a lot quicker than the other fellas and almost got to the line, in fact, and he plays the ball back to Terry Payne. It goes on to Blyton. Blyton's brought to ground 1 metre short of the line. Time running out, only 10 minutes of play left in the 1981 grand final. That's Atherton on the charges. It goes across Gillespie, a long pass to Danell. Danell can't handle it, puts it to ground, and finally rolls into touch.
That's the sort of bad play that lets Atherton down. They're trying hard. There's players trying their heart out. They're within metres of the line, and somebody throws a bad pass and they lose possession, and they have to try to win it back from a scrum.
They appear to be looking for some inspiration that they haven't got at the moment, Mick.
Yeah, they're looking for luck, and I think it's a bit late to ask luck to help you.
They're 11 points behind luck at the moment, and it's Mick Agius who wins the scrum, the ball from that scrum forward, Brothers. He's not looking too well at all, Mick Agius. He gets up and plays the ball back to Peter Duck. He's had a torrid game too, Mick Agius. He can deserve to look a little bit tired as Cavanagh at dummy half gets it on to Miles Plumb, goes straight up centre field, says, OK, Jeff Moss, put me to ground if you can, and Mark Fox it is who comes underneath to assist Jeff Moss. Cavanagh at dummy half again, as always, on to Steve Penny, who switches play, comes back to blind side of the field, looking to set up Peter Duck, but Broadley's there to bring him to ground. He'll play the ball 20 metres inside Brothers territory on the grandstand side of the field. Brown putting the ball to ground, and that's where a scrum will pack down. He goes back and retrieves it. Broadley was there quickly to sum the situation up, but Brown dived on it just too quick. And yet another scrum, all within that little 10-metre area that's down there at the moment. Agius into the scrum, and immediately referee Del Favero down to have a good look at it too. And he's penalising Mick Agius, and he's giving him a 5-yard penalty, and he's... That's not a bad 5 yards either.
No.
That's a good one.
Right over in front of the post.
A lot of people don't go that far for a holiday, Mick, do they?
No. Well, he's certainly giving Atherton some sort of heart, and I don't think it's untoward in any manner, because I think Brothers are home and hose, and a try will certainly make a better game of this if Atherton can score a try.
And it's Mark Fox who takes the ball from Blyton from that tap and charges across field. There's only about 10 metres short of the line, but it's Blyton who takes the ball from dummy half and tries to go through. It's a bit hard to get enthusiastic at the moment, as Broadley it is who gets it on to Terry Payne. Payne heading out wide, trying to link up with his players. Atherton's wingers are standing wide enough to be able to create an overlap, and Brothers players are coming in here. Could be an overlap, but he turns it back inside, and it's in fact Jeff Danell who's wrapped up with the ball and brought to ground only a metre or two short of the Brothers line as it goes to Blyton. Blyton onto Broadley. Broadley charging for the line, but he's too small. He can't get through there, and the big fellas are there well to the fore. There's last tackle coming up for Atherton as Payne brings it across, turns it back inside to Fox. Fox spearing around, beat 2 tacklers, but he's brought to ground without making any more ground than what they started off with, so scrum will pack down. It'll be a 5-metre scrum going down, 5 metres out from the Brothers line. Atherton on the attack with only 8 minutes of play to go. It's an attack, but only just an attack. And it's a little bit unfortunate that we do see this 11 points difference. There's a nice little switch of play from the dummy half as from the scrum, I should say, as Terry Payne ran the open side and fired a short one to Moss, but Moss was immediately wrapped up there by Taylor getting through. Gets up, plays the ball back to Jack Duncan. Duncan putting his head down, trying to go through the line on the far side of the field, but he's pulled down only inches short. He'll play it back to Perricini. Perricini gets his pass out to Payne. Payne to Charlie Martin. Charlie Martin loses the ball. It goes backwards, picked straight up by the hooker there in Mark Broadley, and Broadley goes straight into Adrian Smith, and there's no going past that. From the play the ball, a penalty straight to Atherton. Brothers all up inside the 5 metres, and a penalty to Atherton right in front of the sticks. Well, Mickey should tap that ball hard between the Brothers players' legs, but he taps it, it's Mark Fox, and tries to dive over, but
And he
loses the ball over the line. Well, I would have thought that from that situation, tapping the ball through the brothers' players' legs would have been a situation.
Yes, well, Atherton have been trying for 20 minutes. They've had the 6 free kicks in a row. They've had the scrum advantage, and they haven't scored a try.
And all the players been in brothers 25.
Yeah, that's right.
And, well, a bomb would be...
much for Atherton's attack.
A bomb would be in order, too.
Yeah.
But brothers have got this scrum, and Stephen Penny running away from it at the open side of the field. The Atherton defence is well to the fore, and they put him to ground. We can't say too much about the defensive, against the defence of either side in this last 20 minutes of football, that is for sure, as Mick Volp this time gets up and plays the ball back to Cavanagh. It goes on to Peter Duck, who grins his teeth, goes straight into Jeff Bignell, who wraps him up in company there with Greg Perricini, who's done a tower of work since he's been out there too, and puts him to ground on the 25 as it goes across the back line, and chiming in from the back line is Miles Plumb, but Jeff Moss is there in company with Mark Fox to wrap him up. He'll play the ball back to Lawry Cavanagh. Cavanagh looking for support, has none, so decides to go himself straight close to the ruck. That's the last tackle coming up now for brothers as Cavanagh gets up and plays the ball back to Plumb. Plumb fumbling the ball, now gets it on to Graham, gets it out to Peter Duck. Peter Duck trying to get away from Perricini. There's no chance in doing that, and Broadley comes over the top right on the halfway mark, 2 metres in from the grandstand side touchline, and that's the 6th tackle for brothers. 4 minutes of play remaining in this game. Brothers 24, Atherton 3. As Mick Agius puts the ball into the scrum, it comes out brothers' way once again, knocks the ball onto the base of the scrum. Terry Payne's there to pick it up, and amongst everything else, we have referee Alan Del Favero's leg. Fair play, says referee Del Favero, gets up and gets away from the play. Terry Payne's ball, says the referee. Eventually, it goes back to Fox. He gets his pass on to Blyton. Blyton gets it out then to Gillespie. Gillespie turns it back inside to Perricini. Perricini again to Gillespie, and Gillespie's wrapped up right on the halfway mark, dead set in centre field. He'll play the ball back to John Blyton. When allowed, get up. And the referee says taking too long. Dale Graham, the offending player. And once again, the brothers players opening their mouth about it, and referee Del Favero giving them that big 5 metres once again. He takes the tap as Blyton. Blyton runs straight up to the brothers' players, and he's immediately wrapped up and brought to ground. 20 metres inside brothers' territory, dead set in centre field. Jeff Moss taps him on the back and says, come on. It goes out then to Fox, and Fox tries to go back inside once again, but that wall's too big in there, and Steve Penny's one of the men who put him to ground. Plays it back to Broadley. It goes on to Payne. Out to Gillespie. Gillespie to Perricini. Perricini's only got Duck to beat, but Duck wraps him up by the legs. He'll get up and play it back to Payne. Payne on to Broadley. Broadley looking to get it on to Martin. Finally does then to Mark Fox. Mark Fox is through the gap to the Greg Perricini. And Greg Perricini's in underneath the stick. So Atherton narrowing that gap, but there's only 2 minutes of play remaining. It's all over by the shouting brothers. 24, Atherton 16 with a kick to follow. That's the score at Parramatta Park. Well,
Bread from Enzo's Hot-Bread Drive-In Bakery is so much tastier and so much easier to obtain. Enzo's bread is baked daily with Enzo's famous recipe. And you have a choice of white, brown, kibble, rye, Vienna, buns, bread rolls, currant buns, cream buns, and so much more. Enzo's is open 7 days a week, and you just drive in. You don't have to get out of your car. Enzo's for quick service, open 7 days a week. Drive in soon and taste the difference.
4 a.m.
Well, Jeff Moss once again doing the correct honours with the boot and putting the ball straight through the sticks as little rain starts to come across the field here at the moment. So Jeff Moss has 3 kicks from 3 attempts, and the score now, brothers 24, Atherton 18, as Mick Agius comes up nice and steadily, and why not? There's only 2 minutes of play remaining. Takes his time about kicking off to recommence play. Now puts his boot to the ball, drives it deep down into Atherton territory. Moss goes back. Now they decide to leave the ball go out over the dead ball line. Good tactics. Oh, pardon me. That's good tactics from Atherton. To allow that ball to go out, not good tactics by brothers at all. Atherton have the option of a tap from the 25, and that's what Fox will do. Takes the tap and goes himself up the 10 metres up to the brothers' players before he's brought to ground. There's the full-time hooter as Fox gets up. No need to play the ball, says referee Del Favero. That's where we'll end it. You can't win it from here. So at the end of the 1981 Rugby League Grand Final, the CTL, Cairns District Rugby League Grand Final, for the 2nd year in a row, played between a Cairns representative side and a Tableland representative side, if we could call them that. And Mariba having the honours last year, being defeated by Kangaroos. This year, Atherton having the honours, being defeated by brothers to the tune of 24 points to 18. With his full-time summary of the game, it's Mick Lill.
Thanks, Alf. Well, brothers were just too good. They were too good in all departments. They dominated the scrums. The only thing that they didn't win was the penalties. Alan Del Favero helped the Atherton side as much as he could, but it was all to no avail. Atherton were just never in the game. They fought back in the last 20 minutes or so, probably the best passage of play as far as Atherton were concerned in the whole match. I think that when teams are going into a grand final, that they should have had a better preparation. They should have had a more positive attitude, and I didn't think that Atherton had the attitude today to win a grand final. Brothers did. They stuck to their task without being great in any department. They made very few mistakes. They just played their percentage football, and they stuck to their game the whole way through. They kept that advantage. They got to the lead. They led 13-3 early in the first half, 19-8 at half-time, and they ended up 24-18. They always kept those couple of converted tries ahead, and it was hard for Atherton to bridge the gap at any stage. The effort by Atherton came too late. They should have had the passage of play that they displayed in the last 20 minutes. They should have had that in the first 20 minutes, and they may have been some sort of a chance.